Hello and welcome to the Michael Krug podcast show. My name is Michael Krug. I'm a board certified health coach, and today we're going to be talking about the way that I personally exercised, my journey of fitness, and how I lost 150 pounds, how I made fitness and exercise become just a part of my life, a part of my everyday and every week routine, as well as 5 key points and how to make a fitness routine that works for you. So before we get into it, if you need some support on the fitness side of things, I'll put the link in the description here on YouTube. I have a free course that also comes with 3 separate workout programs. Again, you can sign up for that, get it for free. It's called the Inspired Blueprint. Again, if you're interested, if you want some different perspectives on fitness, the 3 programs in there's one that's no equipment, so you don't need any equipment at all to do it. The other one is just dumbbells. And the third one is more of an advanced total body hypertrophy and strength workout program in which you would need a full gym. So feel free to check it out. Like I said, my goal with this podcast is to help people, and I'm going to keep it going. So my story. Yeah. So a lot of times there is this idea in contemporary culture that if we are overweight, if we're carrying extra body fat, if we're obese, that we are lazy. And, I was 375 pounds and that was not a healthy state to be in, but I've never really been lazy. Okay. So I always enjoyed moving my body in some different ways. For me, it was mostly activities. So growing up, I played baseball, football, hockey, and golf all through high school, essentially. And I've always been someone who really enjoyed those activities. In fact, if you haven't heard my story, I do have my first episode of the podcast is all about my story. And I talked about how when I went through this traumatic knee surgery as a junior in high school, and they told me I couldn't play sports anymore, that was actually one of the most depressing days of my life, right? Like sports and activities were always a place for me to be an outlet, a place where I could get energy out, and I also felt good doing it. I'm also a relatively competitive person. I'll go ahead and say I'm very competitive. Sometimes I play it off like I'm not, but I really am. So losing that in my life was a very challenging thing. And even going through knee surgeries and things of that sort, I still was always a pretty active person, right? That being said, back then I loved activities, but I didn't necessarily enjoy working out just to work out. Whereas now things have completely shifted, and I do love working out for the sake of working out. I enjoy resistance training, strength training, using dumbbells, barbells, things like that. I really love the aesthetic effect. I'm not going to lie and say that I don't enjoy the vanity piece. Like, I enjoy being muscular and having low body fat percent. That's something that I personally really enjoy. I also enjoy the mental health benefits. There's a ton of mental health benefits to exercise, as well as for me, it's like fun. I've gone through a lot of different, modalities of training, which I'll actually talk about. We'll just get into that. And I'm at a very different place with my training right now, which we'll get to. So for me, right, with the weight loss journey and the way that I started moving again, and I will say, growing up, I was always very active. And then after my knee surgeries, I kind of wasn't very active for a couple of years. But when I had that moment, Wednesday, May 16th, 2012, where I was 375 pounds, my blood pressure was 160 over 100 at the doctor's office, I knew I had to change some things. And I made an episode about how I ate and how I still eat to lose 150 pounds and to maintain it for life. But also I knew that fitness-wise, I was going to have to do some things as well. And the doctors told me, right, like that, high impact training, so things like running, even walking to an extent when I first got started, was not going to be the best for my knee recovery. So what I started doing was just riding my bike everywhere. Okay, so this is in 2012. I started riding my bike to work and back. I started riding my bike, I'd just go on 20-minute or 20-mile rides, like every weekend, just for fun, just exploring St. Cloud and, the beautiful St. Cloud, Minnesota, and everything. And for me, I enjoyed biking, and it was something that was very easy to do. And there was very little friction to action. And with fitness, I like to talk about that friction to action, because the more friction to action that we have, the more that stands in the way between us being, me sitting in this chair versus like going out and doing something active. The more we can reduce that friction and the easier it is to get into action, the more sustainable it will be, especially in the short term. There is a flipping point where eventually you'll go through more friction to get certain types of activity that you want, which we'll talk about in a bit. But in the beginning, making things pretty easy, which again, we're going to go over those 5 points in a little bit. So Anyway, May 2012, I started riding my bike everywhere, and that was all I did. And for the rest of that year, with changing just my diet and then riding my bike a lot more, I got from 375 down to about 300, 310 range. And then I moved to a different college. I went to Winona State University, and I brought my bike down and I would bike around there. And I was in this plateau range from January 2013 until January 2014. Where I would ride my bike. I even started going to the gym, but I would just do like the elliptical and stretch. Like I didn't really know enough about lifting weights. Like, yes, I did it for football in high school, but not enough where I understood like having a program and what to do and when to do it. So I kind of stayed in between 300 and 325, which I know is a large working range. But for a full year, I stayed there. And again, I was still riding my bike and doing those things. And I kind of had this realization moment in January 2014. I was like, okay, riding my bike is great. And I'm starting to learn more about fitness. I'm starting to learn more about nutrition. And I see that all these people who are in great shape, who have the body aesthetic that I desire to have, they all lift weights. So January 2014, I started lifting weights, and I really just started with a basic program I got off of bodybuilding.com, which was like the bro split, right? So I do like, chest and tries on Mondays. I do back and buys on Tuesdays. I would do legs on Wednesdays or skip it. I would do shoulders and abs on Thursdays, and I would do fat arm Friday. So Friday was just arm work. And, that style of training, it's not what I do now. I think it's effective and it works, but it was very long workouts. So I was in there for probably 60 to 90 minutes every time. And granted, I was a college kid, so I had tons of time to be able to do it. But that was how I got into the gym, and I started learning more about it. And I think a lot of times, again, another piece of friction to exercise, especially with resistance training, is like just getting into the gym and having something to follow along with, and understanding that you're going to make mistakes. You're never going to be perfect right from the start. And that's quite all right, right? Like, even if you look at bodybuilders like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he had to start somewhere, right? He wasn't born in a gym and didn't, bench press on his way out of the birth canal, so to say, right? So we all start somewhere. And especially with resistance training, because I do understand there's a little bit higher level of friction to that versus something like walking or hiking or cycling, right? Understanding that that's going to be a part of the learning process, and just getting yourself in that environment as soon as you can is going to be a huge catalyst for growth in that way. So from January 2014 through May 2014, just doing the bodybuilding style lifting 5 days a week and then continuing to ride my bike on weekends, I actually lost an additional about 50 to 60 pounds. So I went from like the 310, 320 range down to about the 260 range, which was fantastic. And for me, it was an important lesson to learn that if you want to achieve, again, some specific type of aesthetic, if you want to catalyze weight loss, resistance training is a huge factor in that. Resistance training, again, if your goal is to lose weight and all you're doing is running and walking, I really think that adding some resistance training would be a great benefit across the board, whether you're trying to lose weight or not. So that's what I started doing. And that kind of set off my curiosity in lifting weights. So from there, I actually enrolled in the class, and one of my friends was teaching how to do like powerlifting and Olympic lifting as a part of this coaching principles class that I was in. I was teaching how to putt and golf, which was fun. So I started doing powerlifting, so deadlifts, bench press, and squats, which was great. And then he actually taught me how to Olympic lift. So I did those, plus I would do the snatch with the barbell as well as cleans and jerks. So that was really fun. Also around that time, I started getting into yoga. And honestly, since then, which I think was in like late 2014 into 2015, I haven't really done a lot of like the bodybuilding bro style split, just because I really fell in love with powerlifting. So to this day, like literally I'm recording this on a Monday, and just on Saturday I was squatting, 315 for reps. I just love powerlifting. I think it's so fun moving a lot of weight, especially obviously like you have to have proper technique and everything. But I think for me, it's a really good foundation of my training style. And then in the years after that, like, 2015, 2016, and 2017, I got more into like high intensity style training. So I started doing a lot of like dumbbell circuits. I started just using a lot of dumbbells in general, doing a lot of like supersets and giant sets. So not as much horizontally loaded training where you just do one movement and you like do a set and then you rest and then you do another set and rest, but actually having like a circuit that you run through. And I think especially if your goal is weight loss and fat loss, that's probably not probably, that is the most effective way to exercise if your goal is to change your body aesthetic, to build muscle and to burn body fat, because we want to have that elevated heart rate as well as get all the benefits from resistance training. So that's what I did. Then, since then too, I've been members at different gyms. I used to be a member at a gym called Alchemy, which is a combination of like yoga and high intensity training. I've been a member at a couple different CrossFit gyms. I love CrossFit. For me at this stage in my life, I've had some injuries and stuff that especially the knee surgeries. So doing that intense of a workout for me isn't what I choose to do anymore. But I've kind of developed my own training philosophy for myself, as well as what I do for most of my clients who again are working on weight loss. So what I'm trying to share with this, and another thing is I've also gotten into more golf specific training. So doing a lot of power training, I'm just trying to hit the ball 300 yards regularly and in the fairway, of course. So what I'm trying to share with this is that you have to have some sort of starting point, and it will continue to morph and change over time. And, when I'm in my 50s and 60s, I don't think I'm going to be deadlifting, 500 pounds. I don't think I'm going to be squatting over 300 pounds at that point, but at least I have the foundations and I've built up strength, and I can continue to adapt it over time. And just to finish this loop where I started at. So I'm at a point right now with my training where I actually don't follow a specific program. And a lot of trainers and other coaches out there will say, like, you have to follow a plan, you have to follow a program. And I think especially if you're a novice or even intermittent trainer or trainee, when you're getting used to training, when you're learning about different types of exercise, when you're learning about different types of movements, I do believe that having a specific program or plan to follow is super important. And in my life, it's gotten to a point now where the gym is like my creative space. Like, I go to the gym and I go to the gym with a general sense or idea what I'm going to focus on. So for me, I usually do an anterior focus day every week, a posterior focus day every week, and then I'll do 2 or 3 total body kind of hybrid style ones. I've also started doing more sprinting, which I think has a lot of benefits, but that's just the way I approach it. So like today I did a posterior focus day. So I went to the gym and I did hip thrusters with a barbell, superset with pull-ups, and then I did some box step-ups with slow eccentrics. I did some kettlebell single leg deadlifts, and I also did gorilla rows, so like bent over rows, and I just ran each of those through for 4 or 5 sets, and that was my workout. And it was, with a 10-minute walk, it was 45 minutes. I'm a huge fan of efficiency in the gym as well. Me personally, nowadays, I rarely spend more than 45 minutes in the gym. I'm doing Live Hard, so I have to spend 45 minutes in the gym. Otherwise, I'm pretty efficient at getting 20 to 30 minutes of actual work time, really intentional work time in. And that's what works for me. And I think, especially if your goal is weight loss, it's not always a function of more, but it's a function of optimizing what you're doing and using your time in the best way. So that's kind of the progression of my fitness journey and how it's looked for me. It looks different for everyone. Again, I'm not saying that the bro split bodybuilding type of lifting is I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's fantastic. And just understand like the amount of time that you're going to have to allocate towards doing that style of lifting versus circuit style lifting is very different. And I myself am relatively busy with a full schedule with, running a business, having kids, having a partner, wanting to also enjoy life. Most of the people I work with are also busy professionals. A lot of them have kids. So I'm all about just efficiency in the gym. So that's where I'm at. I'm in the max efficiency mode of my training life. And who knows, it can continue to change over time as well. So with that, I want to give you the 5 tips for lifestyle exercise. And if you haven't watched my video about my nutrition and how I ate and continue to eat for weight loss as well as sustaining your weight long term, in that video I use the term lifestyle eating, and this is what I call lifestyle exercise. So again, it's not just following a program, it's not just following a meal plan, it's not just following a workout program. It's all about the lifestyle and making these habits and behaviors become a part of your lifestyle. So that's why I like to use the term lifestyle exercise or lifestyle fitness. So number 1, the most important point here, especially if you're just getting started, is to do what you enjoy, period. Okay? Especially when you're getting started on a fitness journey, the less friction that you can have towards getting into action, like I already talked about. A lot of times doing things we don't enjoy, there's a lot of mental friction. Like, man, like I gotta go run. Like I freaking hate running. Like that's me. I'm not a huge fan of running. I've gotten into it more slowly over the years, especially with my knee injuries and surgeries I've had. I have to be strategic about it. But like If I had a program where I was running 5 days a week, it would not be super enjoyable and it would be very hard for me to commit to a program like that. Nowadays, I run once every 2 weeks, maybe, just because I know I can benefit from it, from doing things differently. But if you enjoy running and you're getting into fitness or getting back into fitness after, 2, 5, 10 years off of fitness, start with what you enjoy, right? I have a lot of clients who come to me and they're like, hey, I used to be a runner. I want to get back into it. I'm like, that's fantastic. We can create workouts to help you with running. We can do running focused workouts. If you don't like running, but you enjoy kayaking, well, then there's obviously some friction there when it comes to finding a body of water and transporting the kayak and bringing everything there. Maybe a better example is hiking, right? So for example, if you're not doing anything, but you enjoy hiking and being in the woods and seeing animals and trees and the smells and sights and sounds, maybe starting with going for a hike 2 or 3 times a week is a great one. Maybe you just enjoy walking in general. So it's just walking around your neighborhood or wherever you live. I say this all the time to all of my clients that walking is hands down the most underrated form of exercise. It really is a total body movement. So the more you can walk, the more steps you can get in. Great. If you enjoy doing yoga, go to YouTube and type in yoga classes that you can do at home. And there's, millions of videos that you can follow along with. If you enjoy working out at home and you have dumbbells, you can just search dumbbell at home workout. I also, like I said, in the Inspired Blueprint, I have a free program that you can access and you can follow along there. There's a lot of different options. But again, the most important thing here is to make sure that you are doing things that you enjoy, and to make sure that, especially when you're getting started, whatever you're doing, it feels like you actually get into action relatively quickly. Like it doesn't take a ton of willpower or like having to fight yourself or say, you got to do this. Like you have to force yourself to do this, right? The more you can find, especially at the beginning, something that you enjoy doing, the more likely you are to develop that long-term habit. Okay. Especially at the beginning is what I'm talking about. So that's number one, do what you enjoy, especially at the beginning. And hopefully through practicing different types of fitness, you enjoy more types of fitness. Number 2 is lifting weights and resistance training. When it comes to overall health as well as aesthetics, the vanity piece of it, lifting weights is going to be your best friend. Okay, so by lifting weights, again, I mean resistance training. So it can be dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells. It could be no equipment. You could do body weight style training. It could be push-ups, pull-ups, that kind of stuff. Doing resistance training though and lifting weights is going to help with so many different things. It helps increase muscle mass. It helps increase your bone density. It will preserve muscle mass as we age, which we know that having adequate muscle mass as we age over time is a very, very important part of healthy aging and longevity. Helps with improved immunity. Helps with improving your digestion. It also increases your metabolism. There are so many benefits to lifting weights. I didn't even get into the mental health benefits. It helps alleviate symptoms of depression and anxiety. Lifting weights is huge. On top of that, not to mention when you are strong and you feel strong in your body, you just feel a lot more confident in general, whether it's, moving furniture or if you're out and about and feeling like you can, protect yourself. There's so many benefits to strength training that, again, across the board, if you haven't done any resistance training and or if there's a ton of friction and you don't like doing it, maybe the next step after you develop a routine where you're doing a lot of movement and fitness every day, because that was what it was for me. I started with just riding my bike. I didn't really want to do the gym. I rode my bike regularly for about 1.5 years. And finally, it was just I had it built into my day and into my weeks where I had time for exercise. Then I started experimenting with new things, which for me was fitness and lifting weights, right? Another thing with lifting weights too is, again, I kind of already mentioned it, but that body recomposition. So being able to decrease body fat and increase muscle mass is typically going to lead towards a body aesthetic that the majority of us want to have, right? Like a lot of us have the desire to be a little bit leaner, a little bit more toned, right? Being able to see your shoulders if you're a guy, maybe, or a woman. It could be, I like having big, strong legs. It makes me feel good. So there's a lot of benefits to lifting weights, both from the aesthetic, the physical, and the mental health piece. So number 2 is lifting weights is super important. And again, if you need something like a program or a plan to help you get into lifting weights and resistance training, I have 3 of them in the Inspired Blueprint. So go ahead and grab that in the show notes. Number 3 is cardio. So cardio is also a very important piece of training, especially when it comes to stamina and longevity. So for me personally, I do a lot of circuit style training, which means that, I might be working out for 25, 30 minutes, but I'm usually moving almost the entire time. Like I'm not taking more than 45 seconds of break between sets, and a break between a set is like between 2 or 3 different movements, which helps with my cardiovascular exercise. So I love doing resistance training in a cardio form because I get both benefits at once. I think that's the ideal way to train if your goal especially is weight loss. That being said, doing things like running, hiking, canoeing, paddleboarding, cross-country skiing, whatever it is, any form of cardiovascular exercise is going to be extremely, extremely important for our heart and our lung health, right? And if we look at, again, longevity and healthy aging, the healthier heart we have, the healthier lungs we have, the more healthier we'll be and have a longer health span so that we're healthier into our later years. And cardiovascular exercise is a huge point of being able to be healthier and live longer and a healthier lifestyle for a longer amount of time. With that too, I would say with cardio, kind of back to point one, when it comes to cardio, do things that you love, right? So again, if you don't enjoy running, then going for a 30-minute run probably isn't the best form of cardio for you. It could be a walk. Again, walking is very underrated. Paddleboarding, skiing, kayaking, circuit style lifting weights, right? There's a lot of different types of cardio that we can do, but with cardio, we're looking for an elevated heart rate over time, which is it's going to give us a little bit more calorie burn in the moment, but also it's just very, very healthy for the heart to be working a little bit more intensely and then to have a cool down period after. So again, point number 3 here is cardio is also very important. If you're going to prioritize one, honestly, I would prioritize the resistance training and ideally get towards a point where you're doing the circuit style resistance training so you get the benefits of both, but they are both important for overall health. Point number 4 is mobility, okay? And mobility is just as important as exercise. And with each passing year, I feel like I spend more time each week or each session dedicated to mobility. And there's a lot of benefits to it. So one, when your body can move through full ranges of motion, you're going to feel more confident, especially as we age. You are going to be able to actually build more strength. So, for example, if you're doing push-ups, but you only come up to like here, if you're on YouTube watching versus like a full extension, you're missing a whole, 35% of that range of motion that you could be building strength around. Okay. Something that I say to all my clients is the larger range of motion our body can move through, the more we'll be able to move over time, right? Another thing too is I have some clients I work with who are in their 70s, and usually their biggest thing is not trying to lose weight, not trying to get like bulked up or get ripped. They're always like, I want to be able to have the range of motion and flexibility that I had 20 years ago. Right? So I see this from a longevity perspective. The more we can focus on mobility, moving through ranges of motion, the healthier, happier life we're going to have down the road, as well as the less we're going to have to undo in case, things do go south for us health-wise. As long as we're still mobile, we're going to be able to tap back into cardio and strength training as a function of that mobility. Okay. So again, all 3 of these, resistance training, cardio, and mobility, are super important. I guess I'm not talking about specific amounts per week. I can throw that in. So I guess, an ideal training regimen would be moving your body every single day for at least 30 minutes. I would say lifting weights 3 to 5 times per week. I would say cardio 3 to 5 days per week. It's just fine to do them both in the same day, and mobility for at least 10 minutes every day. And that's ideal. That's optimal. We're not all going to start there. So if you can start with, 3 workouts a week and 2 of them are resistance training and 1 is cardio, and then maybe doing a little bit of mobility every day or every other day, it's a great place to start. Again, with all new behaviors, lifestyle habits, things that we're working on, starting with something that is a little bit outside our comfort zone, but we feel like if we push ourselves, we can do it. That's always a great place to start. Okay. Number 5, a super, super important thing, one that I didn't learn until a little bit later in my journey, is to schedule time for exercise in your day-to-day routine and then commit to it and be intentional with it. Okay. I know that you're busy. I know that you likely, again, if you have kids, if you have a demanding career, you have a partner, you have family, you have, social gatherings, all these other things that are super important to participate in. And I'm not telling you not to do those things, but what I'm telling you is that if you can, and when you do commit to fitness, you're able to show up more present with more energy and more confident in all of those different areas and domains of life. being fit, being strong, being active amplifies all the other things that we do in life. Okay. So for example, if you go on trips and you like to walk around and see different sights, if you like to go on hikes, if you like to just, experience what the world has to offer, the better shape we're in and the more fit we are, the more enjoyment we're honestly going to get out of those things. Even if it's just, getting dinner with your in-laws, like the more energy you have and the more fit you feel, the more confident you are in just showing up in that space, the more everyone's going to get from it, right? So with this scheduling and making it a commitment, like I said earlier, 30 minutes a day is a great number to go for. Whether you do it in the morning, if you do it in the evening, if you do it over lunch, right? Just figuring out how to make it fit into your lifestyle. And then again, committing to that time. Again, we're busy, we have kids. It's really easy to take our fitness time on the schedule and either keep pushing it back or to just delete it altogether. I'm challenging you not to do that. I'm challenging you to adhere to this fitness time of your day as if it was a very important work meeting. If it was a meeting with a client, okay? If it's a meeting with your boss, right? Commit to that time that you work out just like you would commit to any other thing in your life, right? And I guarantee if you did an audit of your habits and your lifestyle, which there is a habit and lifestyle audit within the Inspired Blueprint course, if you want to download it and check it out. If you did an audit of all the time that you spend on a day-to-day basis and what you do, I guarantee you can find at least 30 minutes a day where you can prioritize exercise, right? I mean, there's ultra successful people, decamillionaires, 100 millionaires, billionaires who are prioritizing their time and can get exercise in every day. I'm not saying that they have more demands than you, but a lot of times when people have that level of success and responsibility, they do have a ton of different demands. If anyone can prioritize 30 minutes a day, you can too, is what I'm trying to say. And oftentimes we don't think we have time, and yet we're spending time watching Netflix every night. We're spending time scrolling social media every night. We're spending time, we can get really creative with this. There's a lot of different ways that we quote unquote spend or waste time. And time at the end of the day is the only thing that we can truly invest, right? Our time and energy, I should say. So being able to prioritize and invest time and energy into exercise, again, it's going to amplify all the other areas of your life, from finances, relationship, everything across the board, your career. So being able to invest time, and again, if 30 minutes feels like a lot, then start with 15. Okay, it's just a function of making it become a habit and then growing that habit as we go. So those are the 5 points. Number 1, do what you love, especially at the beginning. Number 2, resistance training and lifting weights is going to be optimal for everyone, especially if your goal is body weight loss and changing your composition and having less body fat, more muscle mass. Number 3, cardio is also very important. So when it comes to heart health, longevity, cardio is super important. Number 4 is mobility. The more our body can move, the more range of motion we can move through, the stronger we'll be, the better we're going to feel, the happier we'll be. And number 5 is to schedule it and commit to it, right? Actually, one more thing on the scheduling thing that I heard was, if you schedule to do an exercise, whatever it is, let's say you schedule to go for a walk and you have 30 minutes you scheduled. I challenge you, even if you don't want to walk at that time and there's something else that you could be doing, honor it and say, okay, I'm either going to walk or I'm going to do nothing. Okay. And when I say do nothing, I don't mean looking at email. I don't mean looking at social media. I don't mean cooking or even meal prep, which again is a good strategy. But you have that 30 minutes. You either do the walking or you do nothing. And to take that to another level, typically if we start with the first 5 minutes, especially with exercise, once you get over that initial hump of just getting into the action and the movement, the more likely we are to commit to and finish the workout. So that's what I've got for today. Again, if you need a workout program, I have them built into the Inspired Blueprint. Also, if you enjoyed this show, my goal is to get up to once a week. Right now, I'm like at every other week. I appreciate all the feedback I've gotten on the first couple episodes. If you have any topics you want covered in specific, just let me know. You can put it in the comments. You can message me, email me, michael@coachkrug.com. And then, if you can subscribe and share, I would appreciate it, especially if you got value from this. That's what I've got. So that's it for the Michael Krug Podcast Show, episode number 3. And until next time, keep inspiring.